Welcome to Misbehaving in Maine. I'm Dan Williams. This story is called Our Only True Myth is Childhood. And now, here goes everything. In elementary school, we called our eighth graders the big kids. And we were right. We were so right that even decades later, they're still the biggest kids we've ever known. Let's meet a few of them. Then, I'll tell you a story. Friend Leffingwell, yes, his name was Friend Leffingwell, drank real beer and got chased everywhere by real cops while driving his dirt bike. If you saw a dirt bike go by without cops racing after it, you knew for a fact it wasn't Friend on that bike. Josh Fry was a general in BB gun wars that never ended. They just turned to Cold Wars for a while before going hot again. He was responsible for all his friends setting off metal detectors with the BBs lodged in their bodies, and for teaching them all to be forever jumpy around puppy sounds, and for making them believe that when death came to collect them, he wouldn't need a scythe, just a magnet. Manny Miles was 6'3" during a time when all teachers were medieval in height because of the dark ages of nutrition they'd crawled through to get to adulthood. And Josie McFarland. As far as I could tell in my deep youth, Josie was my wife, if I could ever grow tall enough and scary enough to be worthy of her hair-raising beauty. My friends and I watched these titans move amongst us, their legs making walking forests, their heads in clouds of cigarette smoke they carried with them to school, swirled away in their cheeks, the smoke that turned their teeth beautiful shades of pirate gold. I remember Friend Leffingwell's sister telling me Friend had the ability to spider spit. The technical term is gleek. That's when the salivary glands under your tongue shoot from your mouth a little rain of spit droplets. It can happen when you're yawning or talking animatedly or eating something sour. It happens to 35% of people, and it happens accidentally. However, 1% of people can gleek on purpose whenever they want. Friend was in the 1%. His sister said he once gleeked on the ceiling at home over and over until it started dripping on their mother, who was trying very hard to sit in her favorite chair and watch TV. Ma Leffingwell kept feeling something incredibly disgusting and familial dropping on her head and happened to turn in time to catch Friend spider spitting on the ceiling. She roared with laughter, her mouth wide open, probably gleeking too. Maybe all Leffingwells were in the 1%. Maybe at Leffingwell family reunions, instead of everyone firing guns in the air like you and me, they all tipped their heads back and gleeked. A respectfully quiet celebration of themselves, but no less horrifying and wondrous for that. Enough about Friend's life and adventures. Let's talk about Josh Fry. I remember his sister telling me about the time Josh treed their brother Jeremy in a BB gun skirmish. Josh then summoned his legion of buddies, and they pumped Jeremy full of BB steel. Don't feel bad for Jeremy, though. He became famous with us for having a suit of armor beneath his skin. He was basically the Wolverine, but even better, because Jeremy's metal skeleton was dynamic all over. He could push the BBs around, lining them up, making swirl patterns and swears, and spelling the names of girlfriends. When you find a kid like that, you hold on to him and his BB lumpy body until you're sick to your stomach and you never let go. And then there was Manny of the high height. Manny standing as tall as 6'3" people can stand and doing what these people do. Not a thing. The tall ones don't have to do a thing. They can just stand there, and we're going to go out of our ways and comfort zones and minds trying to convince them to lead us. But this wasn't enough for Manny, just standing there. Manny liked to run. He'd start at the top of our playground's hill and then run like a windmill downhill. Maybe you're thinking windmills don't run. Maybe I'm thinking you should get back into your adult coffin. Or enjoy life, maybe. Manny's run was an impressive display. For one, he ran in work boots size 14, so his footfalls sounded like his feet were wearing shipping containers. For two, when he stood on top of that hill, he was 472 feet plus 6 feet 3 inches above sea level. That's God's height. If Manny stayed up there any longer, we would have worshipped him and gone to hell. Thankfully, though, Manny couldn't stay up there any longer. You throw a downhill in front of a Manny, and he's off. Before he was off, know that his immense shadow cut the hill and playground in half, like an earth-killing rift. A shadow so dark the children caught within it knew for a time the crushing nothing of the universe before the light of stars came to push back the dark. I can't hold Manny back any longer, so let's watch him go. He's running down the hill, his boots booming, the bill and bow of his mesh-backed John Deere ball cap effing up the flight patterns of birds. And there's more. When Manny ran, he made a sound. From the channel of his throat, Manny sang the song of big rig trucks. The song, a grunt groaning up through the gears. And then, at some point on his run, toward the bottom of the hill, when his speed was dangerous to him, threatening a tumble, he'd make that awful soprano roar of the great truck's compression release engine brakes, the Jake brakes scream, slowing himself down and down until he came to a 6'3" stop. There, down in the lowlands, his height had lost a hill, and thank goodness, we could admire him without risking our souls. Lastly, and extremely importantly, I remember Josie McFarland giving me her school picture. If I thought I loved her before, I now had an icon to help me love her more. I kissed the image, my lips hoping for a Braille effect. And now, as promised, a story. It was winter, and it was worse. It was an eternal day at school, a day so far from summertime there was no summertime in our world, not anymore. On that day, during recess, the big kids assembled on top of the hill around Manny, around something he was building. Manny crawled through the snow on all fours, humbling his head to the height of a teacher's head, but this didn't trouble him. He was too busy to be troubled, busy pushing a snowball the size of the world's first atom bomb, if the bomb had gotten itself 8 months pregnant. The hilltop was a big hilltop. Not only did it have room for Manny, even Manny on all fours, but it also fit the basketball court, soccer field, and a covering of deep, sticky snow. The snow, however, was mostly gone. Manny's snowball had eaten it. The path of Manny and the Wonder Ball, the God Ball, covered the entire hilltop and made a pattern resembling the Gordian knotty intestinal tract of Atlas himself. When the ball was too big for Manny to push it in his workhorse form, he stood and pushed it in his man form, and he was joined by the others of his kind. Drunken friend Leffingwell on his right, heavy metal Josh Fry on his left. Even angelic Josie put her hands, shoulders, and back into the work. Others, too. Farm kids, farmers of cows, hay, and marijuana. Sand and gravel kids, lumber camp kids, juvie hall prodigals home from recent adventures. They all pushed together, turning the inhumanly huge snowball of Manny into a logical contradiction. Our gods had made a snowball so big they couldn't lift it. But who cares, as long as they could keep pushing it, And they did. They did until they couldn't anymore, but luckily they'd planned for this and used the last of the snowball's pushability to bring it to the edge of the hill. We, the little children, gazed up and did behold a full moon of snow rising from the hill. It eclipsed the sun, casting a wide shadow that swallowed children, divided friends and enemies, drew a wide line in the white and frozen lands. A line that could not be crossed or jumped over or escaped from, for it had been drawn by the gods of Maine. These gods emerged from behind their round temple, children birthing themselves from the head of some winterland Zeus, and there they stood, a line of giants extending from either side of the snowball like the wings of Mothra. Just as the snowball's shadow had poured down the hill and across the playground wide and dark as a river in hell, so too the shadows of the big kids poured forth. Their long shadows bit into the playground like fangs. Though the children of the lowlands were afraid, we also hoped and whispered, "Do it, do it." The recess monitor saw what we saw and said, "No, no." This was merely bonus inspiration for kids who needed no inspiration at all. They were going to do what they were going to do, even if the teacher or all the teachers failed to tell them not to. They disappeared behind the snowball once again, taking their fangy shadows with them. One final time, they pushed. The snowball teetered, but only slightly. The horribly heavy thing did not want to move. But then, from behind the ball, came a grunt that turned to a groan, then a roar, the vocal equivalent of 15 leaders holding hands with 2,000 foot-pounds of torque. Manny sang Truck Song, dumped his clutch, and shoved. Down rolled the god ball, the big kid apocalypse. The ball, never satisfied, not even after eating a whole hilltop of snow, ate as it rolled, and it was so hungry, so heavy, it gobbled up snow all the way down to the hidden summer green grass. Manny's ball cut a swath of green down the hill, giving the impression that this creation of his was so great it had the power to change seasons in its stride. The big kids followed the ball, walking the wide road of summer down into the heart of the lower playgrounds. We, the little ones, our skeletons liquefied within us by fear and awe, wiggled and wobbled like water grenades to get out of the path of glorious death. The recess monitor didn't say a word. She watched the boulder roll by. A few of us even thought we saw a little smile on her face, a sign that maybe the snowball had gobbled up some of the winter in her, too, leaving behind a path of green bright enough to light her earliest memories, those from the days when a playground-killing snowball was a thing desired more than the love of God. But here's what happened. The biggest snowball ever seen didn't run over any child or recess monitor, adding flesh to its girth, and it didn't knock down and consume the swing set or monkey bars, giving itself a skeleton of steel worthy of all the BB gun victims put together. No, the ball rolled between children, between the swing set and the monkey bars, past the monitor of the thawing memories. But don't worry. It did hit something. It hit the trash can. An old timer of a trash can, a big ancient guy made of galvanized steel, a can that had sucked down the filth of the entire town many times over in its career, a can that had taken more crap from kids than any one of our teachers, living or dead. The precursor wind of the rolling death pushed a musical note over the open mouth of the can, like wind over open bottle tops, a mournful note, but joyful too. "Finally," said the can's song, At long last, I turn out the lights on my generation and give this world over to the plastic receptacles that will tell my story from now until the end of civilization and long after that. Some expected the snowball to bump the can and send it flying. Others, more acquainted with physics, knew this wasn't likely. As often happens, it was the likeliest thing that happened. The monster snowball ran over the trash can, crushing it flat. And when I say flat, I mean paper flat. I mean the flat of metal beaten by a heavy-handed smithy with vengeance, not craftsmanship, on the brain. If only the flat can had been folded over onto itself and flattened again by the ball, then folded and flattened again, then folded and flattened, we would have had the hardest, most storied sword of our times. The ball, having feasted its way down the hill and across the playground, was far bigger than you can believe in good conscience. It rolled to a stop in the kickball field, and there it stayed. There it fed the imaginations of all the little children for weeks. We boiled around the ball like rumors around a sexy preacher. It was our mountain to conquer, our redwood to tunnel through, our head of Zeus to mine for lightning. But all that came later. In the moment, everyone left the god ball alone. The big kids, little kids, and the recess monitor gathered around the flat trash can. They were soon joined by other teachers, the indoor ones. These were only semi-dressed in their winter things. Such had been the speed of their need to see the work of the roundy colossus up close. Word travels fast in a small town, especially when the word concerns a miracle happening right outside the suffocating halls of mandatory math and grammar. All marveled at the can, which was so impossibly flat that no one could blame the big kids. Not really. After all, beyond the extremes of their physical forms and personalities, they weren't really capable of the supernatural. The moment their snowball had left their hands at the rim of the hill, its otherworldly will and its ways, its growing abilities, were out of their hands. Then who was to blame? Don't you know? Look again at the path of the god ball, that wide strip of green grass running from the hilltop, running over the can, running all the way down to the lower field. A green strip? No. A green road, a highway of summer green cutting through winter. Now you know who was to blame. Summertime herself had come walking through winter. She was a fitting god to visit the playground that day, for the god of summer is a god of children, no matter how little or big, and no matter how old. As I said, the teachers were in attendance too, marveling, smiling, and many others as well, all the people young, old, and older who heard the story after that day. The story called them back to the playground. It invited them for a look at the green way of summer, and the green passed through them like it passed through us, the lucky ones who were there. And though the big kids were not summer, they were her prophets. She had given them speed, size, endurance, and beauty, knowing that the rest of us would need the help of their powers whenever the darkest times of our days and years threatened to make our lives long, cold, and far too easy to forget. This has been Misbehaving in Maine. See you next time. And remember, you may be wicked, you may be weird, but you're not alone.